Welcome to Business Reporter's Best of British campaign. It should go without saying, if the person who works at your company is 100% proud of the brand and you give them the tools to do a good job and they are treated well, they are going to be happy. So said Richard Branson in an interview with Business Magazine. Branson is so bought into the idea that happy employees do everything with a smile, and that it means higher profits, that he walks around the Virgin offices and gathers feedback in face-to-face conversations. But many business owners may argue that not all organisations can offer their employees the chance to work on such grand, exciting projects as Hyperloop development, space exploration or transatlantic travel. Does the Bransonian people-first method still apply to less glamorous business pursuits? We've invited Justine James, the founding director of talentsmoothie, to find out whether an inspiring workplace can be great for your business. Good morning.
Good morning, Alistair.
Now, of course, employees have contracts, they have their salary, they've probably got bonuses and other things in their package as well. So why should the boardroom be thinking of any extras?
It's about motivation. We want people to go the extra mile. Let's think about the COVID vaccine, which took 10 months to produce as opposed to 10 years. I mean, how did they achieve that? I think that was about motivated people with a shared purpose and a common goal that really managed to create something that we didn't think was possible. Wouldn't any organisation want to recreate that productivity?
The thing is, some people might say, well, that was an exceptional instance, that doesn't happen all the time, so why should any organisation be looking at the employee experience in a holistic way?
Well, I think the world of work is changing. People want different things now. Money isn't everything. People are looking more to putting ethics first, innovation, looking at the values of the company and whether they align to their own ahead of money. And actually that's a really good thing for organisations, especially those who can't afford to pay top salaries. The idea is think about what will motivate your people and provide it, and that way you'll be able to attract and retain the talent that you need.
In the introduction, we talked a little bit about the Branson model and whether organisations can follow that. What do you think?
Oh, 100% yes, they can, but more importantly, I think they should. Putting people first is really good for business. Let's take coffee as an example. It's not just as important for the global brands as it is for the independents. Both of these organisations need to attract and retain the best baristas because they want to attract the right customers and they want them to keep coming back. So again, how do you attract and retain the best baristas? It's really understanding what's important to them and providing it. And if you don't, you will lose out and potentially some of your customers will go elsewhere as well.
If I was to ask 100 CEOs if they put purpose and inspiration at the top of their agenda, how many would actually put their hands up and say, yes, we do?
Great question, Alistair, actually. I'd say about 10% are really thinking about future-proofing their business from a people perspective. So if we turn that around, we could say 90% are missing out on a great opportunity. I think the employee agenda is changing, the customer agenda is changing, and so the business agenda really needs to change. And so the opportunity is to get ahead of this curve now and do something about it.
And for those CEOs who don't see that, who are not seizing the opportunity, what's getting in their way? What's stopping them?
I think there's two things here, Alistair. The pressure on numbers and also time. And I think we just need to shift our perspective and change our business behaviours where this is concerned. So if I take an example of an employee sort of staff meeting, normally when we come together and talk about how is the business doing, the focus is immediately on business performance, financial performance, how are we meeting our targets. And this can be quite demoralising if things aren't going very well. But how refreshing would it be if we switched this around, and rather than starting with the numbers, we start with an inspirational people story. If we focus in on an individual or even a team that's done something really great in the past week or two that has really impacted and had a positive impact on the business and ultimately on the numbers. We're still focusing on the numbers, but we're just switching the dialogue, and that's much more motivating for people.
Okay, let's say I'm a CEO and I agree with you. I've decided I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put people at the top of my agenda. What are our first steps?
So that's great. We'd love to have a conversation, get to the nub of what's going on from your perspective, really understand the risks that you feel for your business from a people perspective, whether it's skill or behavioural, and then we would get a really good picture of the organisation, the real positives about the organisation and what's great and that you really want to keep, but also those things which you might want to change, which will enable you to actually continue to grow and develop in the right way.
It's interesting, you talk about a solution almost like as a universal solution, but many organisations today will be multi-generational. So how does it work in that sense?
Right, so it's very important to segment your workforce and to understand where there are any differences. And segments can be around generation, but they can also be geography, therefore cultural. They could be diversity. It could be skill set, different people with different skill sets have different perspectives, or even length of service, just to name a few. So it's really important that when you do the research that you understand those segments and you look for those differences as well as the similarities that might come along. And let's just take flexibility, for example, a big topic at the moment. It might be a surprise to you that the younger generation actually want to spend more time in the office than less.
Yeah, a lot of people probably wouldn't realise that.
Yeah.
And actually talking of that, the different perspectives and things, you know, you're working, as you say, multi-generationally. Tell us a little bit more about Talent Smoothie, who you are and what you bring to the table. What's different about Talent Smoothie?
We help organisations create motivated workforces, which is not just the right thing to do, but it's really good for business. We have a lot of our own primary research, and that research plus our experience brings a really fresh perspective, I think, to the clients that we work with. We're able to ask the right questions and really hone in really quickly to get to the nub of what's going to make a difference.
We've seen a huge amount of change recently, and especially over the last 12 months. Let's look into the future. How do you see the workforce looking in, say, the next 5-10 years' time? What are the key changes we should be looking out for?
I guess as a business leader myself, I'm looking to my business and thinking, I want to create a really holistic business for people so that I'm able to attract and retain great talent. And I think we should be looking at 5 things. I think number 1, flexibility. And this isn't just about where people work. This is also when people work. Number 2, we need to look at well-being, but well-being in the whole, not just about health and safety, which is what we've always looked at, but what about our mental health and our financial health as well. Number 3, I'd say inclusion. And when I say that word, I mean, how do we create organisations that aren't just accepting of everybody, but they create an environment where people feel they really belong. Fourthly, technology, not just in the sense of what that enables us to do in terms of where we work, but I think it's going to be really important to understand what's the right combination between people and machines. And then lastly, the 5th one, which I explain as business consciousness. So we need to be really clear about the purpose of our businesses and what they stand for. And I think putting all of these things first it's not just the right thing to do from a people perspective, but it also makes really good business sense.
Well, we know that the workplace is going to change dramatically over the next few years, and you've given us a huge amount to think about as well. And certainly for any business owners and just key decision makers, I know they'll be looking to that very, very closely. In the meantime, Justin James from Talent Smoothie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alistair. It's been a pleasure.